Well, a big hello. Welcome to what is no longer Leadership Liftoff, but is Leadership Under 100. Different name, same mission, helping equip you as a leader of teams under 100 people. And it's so good that you are here today. We're going to be hopping into a conversation with Bernardo. He is a phenomenal entrepreneur and leader of an incredibly successful English training academy in Canada called ILAC. And you're really going to love this conversation because I think he really speaks about maybe the dark side of leadership. And so you need to listen to it a little bit more to understand what I have to say. But if we haven't met, my name is Anna Gray. I've been leading teams of under 100 for the last 8 years in the nonprofit space, and it is an honor to be able to spend some time with you. I hope it is valuable. And before we hop in, if you haven't liked, subscribed, just go ahead and do that. Share this if you find it valuable and let people know about this resource. Let's hop into the conversation. Bernardo, would you kind of tell us the story of how ILAC first started and what it grew to be today?
Sure. I was born in Colombia, in the capital, in Bogota, and I came to Canada to learn English. Basically, I was an international student myself many years ago. So basically, I left Colombia with the dream or the objective to study English, then going to the US to study film, and then go back to Colombia and obviously continue or pursue like a professional position or something in that industry. Before I came to Canada, I was already working in the advertising field. I was a TV and radio producer in an advertising agency. That's how my dream, my goal of studying film was or started. But the thing is, I didn't speak English. So I needed to learn English first, then go do my program in film. Then that was the whole plan. So I came to Canada, learn English, or at least study English, let's say. Study English for 6 months. Then I go to New York to do my program in film. And it was really funny because one of the stories that I have, the anecdote is the first week of me being in New York, listening to different accents from teachers. Oh, it was terrifying. It was horrible because I didn't understand.
I mean, it's not the best place to learn English.
Oh, and the thing is, after we come from, or in my case, a student, an international student comes out of a language school. In the language school environment, we tend to speak like teachers tend to speak like this, very slowly and very well pronounced, etc. Then you get into the real world. I'm in New York with New Yorkers and different accent, right? So I'm not understanding anything. I was panicking. But anyways, I study film. I go back to Colombia and I thought, okay, I did it. No, I had it all. English language, a diploma from a very prestigious university in New York. Suddenly, Colombia is going through a very difficult time, like a political, social crisis that led the country into a recession. So I'm in a position where I don't see any future in Colombia. So I actually went to see some of my colleagues in the industry, and just to give you an idea, when I left Colombia, I was earning, let's say, the equivalent to today's dollars, let's say about, in American dollars, let's say about $300 per month, right? That was a very good salary back then. And when I go back a year later, that salary was $80 a month. So they have dropped everything. So I said, no. So I decided to try something different. And obviously, because I was here in Canada for over 6 months, I had some friends, and I decided to entertain an idea of coming back to Canada. The main motivation for me to come back to Canada was because I had a girlfriend, a Canadian girlfriend, and she was the one pushing me. Come back to Canada, come back to Canada. There is a big industry in the film field here, etc., etc., etc. So that's why I came back to Canada. Anyway, so when I'm back in Canada, I'm talking to some friends one day, and just very informally, we started a conversation about how about if we start an English school. So obviously, I gave my perspective as a student, and I told them one of them was a teacher, and the other person had no experience in this field, but I was a student. So I just say to them, listen, I can tell you from my experience what I will do different to make things better, in my opinion, at least. So anyway, so I started being part of that idea, like even that wasn't my plan, or I didn't want to get involved in that, but they were my friends. So I decided, okay, I'm going to help my friends. I'm going to give them some ideas, but I'm going to look for a job in my field. And that's what I did, basically. Over a couple of months, I was helping them with the idea and putting the idea together, but at the same time looking for a job. Suddenly, the idea took more form and everything, and they actually started the school with a loan from a bank and just a business plan, etc. But they have no students, right? So in the meantime, I'm seeing what is happening with two of my friends, like a new friends, Canadian friends, and me trying to get a job and not all the doors closed, completely closed. So one day I suggested to them, listen, I can go to Colombia. I was also running out of money here in Canada because I came with my savings, and at that point I have used all my savings. So I decided to go back to Colombia and do a workshop in film, obviously because I made connections, etc., etc. So I brought a few film directors to Colombia, and it was the first time in Colombia doing this type of workshops. So I organized the whole thing. I said, I can go there, a little bit of money there, and then come back. So that's what I did. But I told them, listen, I'm going to go to Colombia so I can do promotion of the school. The school was just a couple of classrooms and a brochure that I made for them with basically stock photography. It was like a 2-pager brochure. That's it. So I go to Colombia and I started knocking some doors, and obviously I was born there, raised there, etc. So I knew people, and my father helped me with introducing me to some people, etc., etc. And then my sister got involved as a student recruiter, etc., etc. Long story short, after that trip, they started getting Colombian students. So once they saw that, obviously I did my workshop in film there, came back to Canada. I had funds to survive for another year, at least here. So I come back and they say, Bernardo, we're struggling. We're about to basically declare the company in bankruptcy. Why don't you come and join us? So at that moment, the company didn't cost anything. It was just a debt, basically. And so I said, okay, well, that's not what I had in mind. I have no experience in this, but sure, I'll do it. But I will keep looking for a job in the film industry. So anyway, so I say yes, I committed to that, and I joined the team. It was basically that made me one of the founders, and just because of the job that I did, and in Colombia, we started getting students from Colombia, and the school was safe, let's say, because it was something. It was like a miracle, literally. There is no explanation for that, because we started getting not only students, but I met this person in Colombia who trusted me because I was Colombian. So I was telling him I'm a Colombian in a project in Canada. So he says, okay, I know. And I told him very straight. I said to him, listen, the brochure that I'm showing you is stock photography. Yes, the school is real. There's only 3 classrooms. There's no students at the moment, but this is the project. I was very transparent, very honest. And the guy just believed in me. He believed in me, says, I'm going to support you because you are Colombian. And then he started
what do you think he saw? Like, of course you're Colombian, but what do you think he saw where he believed in you?
Well, at that moment, all what I saw was he's looking at a young Colombian guy wanted to do something in Canada, so let's support this guy. But I think just because I developed a relationship with him later on, I think it was more something that he could see inside of me, like and I think the fact that I was very honest, very transparent, I never lied. I said, listen, this is what it is. I didn't bring a sales pitch or trying to pretend that this was etc. etc. No, this is what it is. We're just starting a business. Just believe in us, etc. etc. So I think he saw that inside of me. And that's why. And he started sending us students with full payment in advance. So imagine 9 months, programs of 9 months, paid in advance, tuition and accommodation and everything. So the school was safe. The business was safe. And then I started developing other markets like Mexico, then Brazil, and then other markets just started.
So it went from 3 of you as co-founders together. So then what did it look like over the next couple of years?
It was really crazy, really, and sometimes even funny, because it was the 3 of us living together. We were roommates. So just imagine that, living the 3 of us in a small apartment, working together, doing everything together. So the first years we were, I was not a teacher because obviously my English skills were not that good. They were native Canadians. Obviously they both were teachers, and I was doing just the marketing and etc. But then we were like doing extracurricular activities. So we were tour guides. We were homestay coordinators.
Mm-hmm.
Everything, like we were doing everything. So just at the beginning, as I said, it was a little bit interesting, sometimes fun, but it got to a point that it was too much. It was too much because just spending pretty much, I don't know, like sometimes like 20 hours a day together, 7 days a week was too much.
That's awesome. I mean, that's kind of the startup spirit, right? It's interesting, right? How even as a leader, when you go from maybe something that's brand new to then something that matures over time, how you have to change even in your time commitments, because you realize that, the 20 hours aren't sustainable for the next 10 years. I like talk about it's like you need to shift gears in your car, right? You can't always just stay in first gear. So what's the second gear? So what did that look like for you, like going from that first to second gear?
And this part was really interesting as well, because they both were friends from high school. Like they knew each other for a long time. So they were roommates in university, and it was like a very long, very close relationship. So I just came to join that team, right? That relationship, but I was not as close with them as they were to each other, right? So at the beginning, yes, let's say, yeah, we're building is like the startup. Obviously, we didn't use that term back then, but I understand. Yes, it is the process. We couldn't afford any of us to live by ourselves. Like we actually needed to share the cost of living. We couldn't pay a rent, etc., because we're not making money. For the first years, it was no money. It was barely making money to pay the rent of the place, and then we started getting teachers, etc. So at the beginning was okay, but as I said, then it got to a point where I needed the space. And yes, I like meeting people from other cultures, etc., but sometimes I needed like my own space, right? So that's part of what many years later got us into a point where we basically broke up the partnership. And that's why I left later on, like 18 years later. But it was part of that. No, it was together doing everything. And we didn't even have specific roles besides one of them being a teacher, but we were just the 3 of us doing everything. 3 of us, hey, we gotta do this. The 3 of us going there. We gotta do this. The 3 of us going there. No, so it was too much. It was too much, and we got to a point where yes, the school is growing, and we need to bring professional people in the team. We need to start letting people that we're hiring for certain purpose do their jobs, etc. It's no longer just the 3 of us micromanaging everything. So it was a transition after that.
Did you feel like that phase lasted too long with just the 3 of you?
I think it lasted too long because the kind of relationship that we have and they both had before, and then like I tried to be part of that, but at the end, and there's another event that happened that it was very important as a part of the story. That is like after, I don't know, by the year number probably 10 or even before, I think I was the first one to get married out of the 3 of us. So I had I don't know, I met a Colombian beautiful
Mm-hmm.
woman. I fell in love with her. I got married, but then we were coming from an environment where we were three single guys
Mm-hmm.
doing what single guys do, no, going out, partying, etc., etc. Then I'm no longer part of that. I don't want to be part of that, right? So that creates another distance between us and like a barrier. No, it's no longer, yeah, don't count on me. You guys are gonna go party crazy. Don't count on me, etc., etc. So, but then I got bad decisions, etc., etc. My marriage got it to a point where we're struggling.
Mm-hmm.
So I basically decided, okay, I need to do something. I really loved my wife, and I say, no, I'm not gonna let whatever we're doing just to build this business to destroy my marriage.
Mm.
At that moment, that's when we started to see the business taking off. We're starting to see revenue and profits, etc., etc. So I didn't want to be more part of that. No, I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to sacrifice my relationship with my wife just for the sake of just building a business. And obviously, as we started to make money, is difficult because you see the
Yeah.
money coming in, right? So I also told him, listen, I want to take it easy. And thanks to a very old friend of mine, he introduced me to God, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And that was part of my let's say my new, like a new turn in my professional development.
Mm.
It was like I knew I needed something. There was something missing inside of me. He introduced me to God. And then obviously, suddenly I started to understand that there were things that I or we were doing that I could no longer keep doing
Mm.
because I started embracing different values and understanding different things. And that also created more distance between us. And that's basically a few years later, that's how our relationship fell apart, basically.
I think this is a pretty profound story, and in some ways a learning lesson for leaders. Like, it's so interesting, Bernardo, because ILAC has done incredibly well, right? You, at that point, if I'm not wrong, the time you decided to leave was an incredibly successful time in the company. And I think you hit the nail on the head about the story a lot of leaders go through, where it's you've built this thing and it's great and it's profitable as all the things that you hope it was, but your marriage isn't good, your soul isn't good, and deciding to have the courage to leave that, because it's almost like this isn't profitable for my life as it once upon it was, and I actually need to take there's wisdom to now walk away from this
Mm-hmm.
thing and taking care of another area of my life. Yeah, talk to me, or maybe talk to maybe someone who's in your shoes, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that was such a real decision for you, where you have these values. I mean, you moved to Canada with not much money in your pocket. You have the money, and now you're like, my goodness, am I gonna let go of this? This is what I was told that's important, but right now, I need to make my marriage important. I need to take care of myself,
Correct.
and get around
Correct.
people who are living with the same values I have. Yeah, talk to that a little bit.
Yes. Yeah, it was basically being in a point where first I was raised in a middle class environment. My background is from a middle class in Colombia, where both my parents work full time and just to give us what they could. We never lack anything, no, and but
Mm-hmm.
I'm not I'm coming from a rich background. That's what I want to say. So
Mm-hmm.
I came with just my savings, my parents supporting me. But in the back of my head, for me, making money was like a goal. Obviously, I had already done something in Colombia when I was working in the advertising industry. I had a good job and I was doing a lot of freelance. So I started to see money, and I started to develop like feeling good about making the money, right? So, and that's a dangerous place, and sometimes that happens when we're too young or too immature. It could lead us to a not to a good place. But anyways, that happened to
Mm-hmm.
me. So I come here to Canada. Yes, I have nothing. I'm starting something. like living the first few years with nothing. I literally, my salary was $600 per month. And that I had to pay rent and eat with that. So no money to do anything else. But then suddenly you start seeing money. And not $600. Then you start seeing thousands of dollars coming to the account, et cetera, et cetera. So everything starts changing. And then the whole environment changes. The way that people look at you changes. And then you feel more accepted, more respected, more appreciated, because then they know, oh, you're successful and this and that. And for me, particularly in the Latin community, I became like a symbol here, and people started to give me awards because I was doing well in the company and this and that. But at the end, inside of me, I was empty. I was lacking something, right? My marriage was suffering. Yes, I was making money, but I was making very poor decisions in terms of my habits, etc. And one day I decided, no, I cannot take this anymore, and I started making changes in my life. One is I want to grow on my faith. I need something inside of me, my soul, my spirit. I need something. I want to fight for my marriage, and also I started exercise. This is something that I never did, and everything happened around the same time. That was pretty much like 20 years ago. And I decided I'm going to exercise. I'm going to start eating healthy. So a lot of changes that led me to the life that I have right now, basically. Like better decisions in many other areas of my life.
I'm so glad we're actually having this conversation, because I think this is the dark side of leadership, right? That's not spoken about, or the dark side of even success. You get, they call it the 3Gs, the glory, gold, and the girls. And you can get those things, but then you find yourself empty, and and realizing that the value of what you are actually pursuing is no longer good anymore. Talk to yourself at that period of time, because I'm sure you were struggling. I'm sure there's someone out there just like you who's going through the same situation. Successful leader, they got everything they thought they needed. What would you say to them?
Well, I think the first thing that I will say is leadership is a challenge, but leading ourselves is the biggest challenge. Sometimes we understand leadership like leading people or guiding people or telling people what to do. That was me many years ago. I always thought, and for me, being an owner or entrepreneur was like equals to be a leader. Then I understood that it's not the case. No, you could be an owner of a company, but you can be a terrible leader. And I think that was my case. So then I would say leading ourselves is very important. And leading ourselves means, let's start with something simple. What are our habits? No, without getting too profound, what are our habits? Our daily habits. How are we treating people? How are we connecting or relating with people? Right? How are we treating ourselves? How much do we love our bodies, our health? Are we exercising, eating well? How's our mental health, our spiritual health? That's where leadership should start. No, but unfortunately, if we focus on a business, then we're so focused on the business that then we say, yeah, let's focus on the urgent and put aside what is important. Unfortunately, that's what we normally do. So my recommendation would be, let's try to lead ourselves first. Focus on leading ourselves first. And that's a challenge. Telling people what to do is easy, but doing it yourself is a challenge. Right? So I learned all that through experiences. Unfortunately, in my case, back then, I don't know if I was not in the right environment or what happened, but I never had anyone telling me all these things. So I had to literally hit the bottom in my relationship or in many different areas to realize that something was wrong. But then I got in, I don't even remember how I got in connected with John Maxwell organization. I just recall someone invited me to, back then it was called a webcast. So it was basically like a in an auditorium. They were basically broadcasting. It was a leadership conference, like few hours. I don't remember exactly, like 4 or 5 hours. And John Maxwell was one of the main presenters. But he had different leaders. And he was leaders from industry, from different companies. Tony Blair was there, I remember. So anyways, I started listening to those professionals and very successful people talking about leadership. I was like, my God, this is different. This is not what I thought leadership was. But then John Maxwell speaking, it was something inside of me clicked with John Maxwell. Mm-hmm. So I left that conference hungry for more information about it. And it was the same as when my old friend from school introduced me to Jesus. It was exactly the same reaction for me. I wanted to learn more. So it was exactly the same thing. So I wanted to learn more about leadership. So I went and I bought CDs. Back then it was more CDs and audiobooks, etc., etc. And then I started learning more about leadership. And I realized, yeah, I got to a point, yes, I know that I know. I don't know anything about leadership. I want to be a better leader. And then you translate that into all the areas in your life and into the business, absolutely, as well. So my recommendation would be, yes, let's lead ourselves first. And this is something that I normally tell entrepreneurs: don't confuse success with money, or good. not measure success by money. Better, because we normally equals success equals money coming to the bank, and yes, that could be part of it. Definitely, yes. If you have a business, you want the business to be profitable, absolutely, right? But at what cost? Success should be like something more like 360. You're successful, yes, as a person, as a friend, as a son, as a daughter, as a father, as a husband, wife, right? And then in the business as well. If you are able to find that balance between all those areas, you can consider yourself successful.
Yeah. Very good. I think this is often the areas of leadership not talked too much about, where it's you can be successful when you go to work, but not successful when you come back home, right? And true success, like you're saying, is that 360 image of success. Like you're taking care of your body, you're taking care of your marriage, your kids, your own soul, your own spirit, and then being very diligent with your work and the people that are entrusted to you. I'm so glad we've been talking about this. We're going to wrap up in a moment, but just on this topic, I think this thought about self-leadership, that you can, quote unquote, be successful financially, but not in other areas of your life. Just talk to that a little bit more, and then we'll wrap up.
Okay. Yeah, well, basically, and based on my experience, I understood that leadership was just basically being the owner and telling people what to do. I was sometimes in a point where I was telling people, this is what you got to do, or if not, that's the door over there at that point, no? Not listening to people, etc., not caring about what people were thinking or could be able to add to the value of the company, nothing like that. First, understanding what true leadership is, no? And we are people, and we were created to connect with people, to interact with people. And that was something that also I learned from my mistake, that when you focus on your business and then you think, I'm here to develop my business, to make money, but forget about people. And then I was treating people really bad. The people that were helping me or helping us run the business and grow the business, still we were really bad bosses because we didn't know anything about leadership, right? So that's something that also has to be put into the equation of how you're treating people, because leadership is about connections. It starts everything with a connection. And at the end, you add that. I understood that I could add or subtract value to someone based on our interaction. So most of the time I was subtracting. I was having really bad interactions with people. And I'm not saying that I was a monster, just by little things. For example, you could come to my office, and I was the kind of person who was always on on the computer. So you could be standing next to me and you were talking to me and I was in the computer typing something, responding an email or something. Then I understood what kind of message I'm giving to this person who's coming to tell me something. I'm just basically saying whatever you're telling me is not important because for me, answering this email is more important. So even small things like that is what we do today. Today, we take our mobiles, and I see a lot of people doing this in the middle of a conversation, having dinner or something, and people are talking, and then the other person is on the phone. No, even learning those little things, that's what I meant before when I say habits. How are your habits? A true leader, and this is something that John Maxwell actually taught me in person on an experience. I had the chance to coincidentally be sitting next to him on a flight from Panama to Paraguay. And the first thing, obviously not intent, like without even thinking, I was just looking at him to see how he behaved. Because the person who's reading 100 books of leadership, how is he going to behave? No, when you interact with him. And he was 100% real. He was with his iPad. He let his iPad on the table, and he actually turned to talk to me. He asked my name. He wrote down my name. He wanted to pronounce correctly my name. So he had this interaction with me. He was adding value to me, and that's what true leadership is, right? So I was learning all that, but I learned afterwards, not at the beginning. It was afterwards, and I started making changes in the company. We started doing things differently. My two partners were on board with most of the changes, but at the end, I wanted to do something different, and I was no longer interested in just making money for the sake of making money. I wanted to do something more significant, not just being able to say, "Oh yeah, ILAC was great. We had 20,000 students every year. I'm out of money in the bank." No, I wanted to do something more significant. And it's like John Maxwell says, that once you meet success, then you need to do something more significant. It's like something inside of you is telling you, yeah, this is not the final destination. So that would be another advice for people. Whenever put the position they are now, just think in the future. Think of and try to connect your entrepreneurial activity to the purpose. Try to think a little bit further. We all have a purpose in life. And is this my purpose? Is this connecting me to my purpose? Am I doing the things that I love? And most importantly, what I'm doing, it is aligned with my values. That's something we need to have very clear, what our core values are, the non-negotiables. So building a business, like it was my case. That was literally my case. Continue building and growing the business. The way that we were doing it and my partners were doing it, it was against my values. And I couldn't be part of that anymore.
Very good. Well, thank you, Bernardo, so much for your time. I really appreciate it. It was good talking to you.
My pleasure. This was great. I hope it helps someone. Okay?
Yes, agreed. All right. Thank you. Hope you enjoyed that conversation with Bernardo. If you got value out of it, would you like, subscribe, share, rate, review, do all those wonderful things, and let people in your world know about this resource, because leadership matters, and how we lead ourselves and how we lead the people that we are entrusted to matters. I'll see you next time.